Good morning, dears. Hope you are doing great. Today we will start a new chapter from your English reader book, chapter number 5, Gullivers Travels. Gullivers Travels is an autobiography of a sailor. Now, what is an autobiography, my dear? If a person tells the story of his life in his own words, it is called an autobiography. Basically, it is an account of a person's life written by that person himself. Over here, the person is the author. Okay? He has just given the name Gulliver. And this book or the story is written by Jonathan Swift. Now, Gulliver's Travel is a fictional narrative. Now, what is a fictional narrative? It means it is an imaginative story. It was the inventory of the author himself. He only invented the story, and it did not happen in real. Let's begin then. Gulliver's Travels. Before you read, have you heard of Christopher Columbus? He was the famous sailor who sailed across the world in his ship in search of India, but instead he reached America. So, Christopher Columbus was a sailor, and in real life he used to sail across the whole world in search of India. But one fine day, he reached America. Instead of India, he reached America. Some people are adventurous like Columbus. Then there are other people who are adventurous but only in their thoughts. One such person was Jonathan Swift, an Englishman, who was very imaginative. He wrote a delightful story of a sailor who visited strange and unique lands in his quest for adventure. Let us read to find out more. So, Jonathan Swift is the writer of this story, and he has put up the character as Gulliver, and he travels the strange places. Let's see. He used to love adventure. His quest for adventure means his thirst for adventure. He used to love adventure a lot. Let's see where does his adventure takes him. I am only 42 years old. Still, I have already had many strange adventures in my travels to far off lands of the world. Strange adventures aren't what you would expect from someone named Dr. Lemuel Gulliver. But being a doctor in London just didn't satisfy me. Traveling to distant lands in the world always fascinated me. Here we come to know that Gulliver was a doctor by profession, and when he was 42 years old, he had already went to very strange places for his adventures. Now, he was a doctor in London, but his profession did not satisfy him, so he wanted to travel more places to find out more things, more strange things. So let's see what happens next. So after qualifying as a doctor, I signed up as a ship's doctor and spent 3.5 years sailing around Europe. I accepted an offer from the captain of a ship named Antelope to be the ship's doctor on a voyage to the South Seas. So for satisfying the thirst of adventure, what did Gulliver do? Gulliver signed up for the ship's doctor. So he wanted to be a doctor in a ship, and the name of the ship was Antelope. So that he could travel from one place to another, he could visit also, and he could carry out his profession also. Now he went on a voyage to the South Seas. Let's see what happened in the journey. We set sail from Bristol, England on May 4, 1699, and after peacefully crossing the South Seas, we were hit by a violent storm off the west coast of Australia. Poor food and too much work while braving the storm caused the death of 12 of our crews and weakened the rest. So Gulliver started his first sail from Bristol, England in May 4th, 1699, and they crossed South Seas peacefully. Soon after crossing the South Seas only, what happened? They were caught by the violent storm. Okay, very forceful and powerful storm. Now after hitting the storm, what happened? All of them were very badly injured and there was no food for them. There was no food and they were facing the storm very badly. So out of this danger, 12 of the crew members, they died. And the others, they all were weakened. So when the wind drove us onto some rocks and split the ship apart, only 6 seamen, myself included, had enough strength to get a lifeboat down into the sea and row clear of the ships and rocks. Now what happened? The wind was so powerful that it broke the ship into 2 halves. It got hit by some rock and it was split into 2 halves. Now all of the men, they got drowned except 6 of them. 6 were alive and Gulliver was one of them. Now Gulliver got some strength somehow and he got a lifeboat. So he got up on that lifeboat and he started to move away from the ship, from the broken ship. Suddenly a strong blast of wind from the north overturned our little boat and scattered my companies. I never laid my eyes on them again. I began swimming in whichever direction the wind and the waves pushed me. I don't know how many hours I spent struggling, but just when I was completely exhausted and water seemed to be filling my lungs, my feet suddenly touched bottom. Now Gulliver and the 6 men were on a lifeboat. Now suddenly a strong blast of wind overturned their lifeboat and all the members were scattered. They spread in all the directions. Now Gulliver did not meet them again. Where did they go? Gulliver did not understand. Gulliver was also alone. Now he was swimming and somehow he spent some hours struggling, swimming and he was very tired. He could not swim anymore. Now at one time came, his lungs was filling with water. He was almost drowning. And then what happened? His feet suddenly touched the bottom. He could see that he had reached some shore. I took in several mouthfuls of air and looked up to heaven. It must have been about 8 in the evening. The storm had decreased and there was enough light to make out land about a mile away. I spent the next 2 hours trying to drag myself towards the shore. Now what happened? As soon as he touched the bottom, his feet touched the bottom, he got some kind of relief. And he looked up in the sky and in the sign, just he wanted to, as if he wanted to say thank you to God. He just looked up to the heaven. Now, at what time did he reach the shore? At almost 8. It was already night. It was already dark. But there was enough light so that he can understand that the land was near only. So what happened? He spent 2 hours dragging himself. He pulled himself. He was so tired and exhausted he could not move only. So for the next 2 hours he dragged himself to the land. I was so weak and tired when I finally limped out of the sea that I dropped down on a patch of small grass. Within moments, I was sound asleep. Now, Gulliver was so tired and weak that as soon as he reached the shore, he could feel that his feet touched some grasses. He just laid over there and he was fast asleep. Now about the story. Gulliver's Travel is Jonathan Swift's most famous work in English literature that tells about the adventure of Lemuel Gulliver, a ship's doctor, who because of a number of accidents ends up visiting several unknown islands which are inhabited by strange people and animals. Now we will see this in the next chapter.